Hey guys, tonight we will slip into a blue quiet dawn where granite walls breathe cool and cattle bells stitch a sleepy rhythm through the hills. You stand at the threshold of Great Zimbabwe and the morning looks freshly washed. I'll keep you company like a soft-voiced guide at the edge of your pillow, pointing out the details you would miss if you blinked. Quick reality check. If you tried to explore a stone maze before breakfast, wearing slick city shoes and chasing cows, you probably won't survive this without a snack and a nap. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Tell me where you're watching from and what time it is there. I love seeing the world map light up. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step forward, and grit pings beneath your soles. The alley is cool as a riverbed, granite on either side freckled with lichen, the color of old moonlight. Your fingertips drift along the stone as if reading a quiet script. Crisp edges, softened corners, a faint dew that kisses your skin awake. The first bell tings, small, tinny, cheerful. A second follows, lower, slower, and the rhythm settles into your calves. A boy waits at the turn, cloak the shade of ash, stick tapping an easy beat. He lifts his chin in greeting and beckons with a palm that says, "You belong if you are gentle." You answer with quieter steps. He taps the wall once, and the sound nips down the corridor and vanishes around a bend you can't yet see. "Come," he murmurs, invitation and reminder at once. You learn quickly. Keep to the inner curve where grit gathers less. Let your free hand graze, lift, graze. Trust the stone's shade to warn of a hidden step. The alley narrows and swells, shaping wind that cools your cheeks. Breath drifts from your lips in small pearls, and your shoulders let go of the night's stiffness. From a side court, an elder steps out, blanket the color of apricots. He presses a gourd into your hands. The rim smells of wood smoke. The milk inside is warm and faintly grassy, steadying you the way a good sentence steadies a paragraph. "The cattle will pass," he says, as if the day has rehearsed this moment 1,000 times and still enjoys it. You stand in the first true narrowing, shoulders almost brushing stone. Pebbles click like small thoughts under heel. The elder points to fossils that sleep in the granite, a curved whisper of shell, a scatter of pinpricks, relics of water dreaming these hills before the word city was needed. The boy grins and tries on the role of guide with 2 words, "First alley." You nod as if given a password. Wind tests the passage and gives it back a hush that belongs to both of you. A woman with a reed-quick stride glides up, her basket wrapped in indigo cloth. She checks the bells, touches a horn lightly, and flashes a smile at your 2 clean shoes. You mime the tiny stumble you made earlier, and everyone laughs. In that laughter, the walls seem to lean in, pleased. She demonstrates the heel-low, toes-soft turn that saves ankles and pride. You copy it, and the alley approves. Now the herd arrives, not in a flood, but a calm river. White backs freckled like river pebbles drift past, breath puffing in quiet wreaths. Horns etch slim shadows on stone. The bells make a skittering music, little metal syllables that agree with morning. You keep to the crook where the wall bends, and the elder stands beside you, the way one stands next to a guest at a window, letting them own the view. Smells layer, dew, smoke, crushed sorghum from somewhere left. A child's voice lifts, practicing the greeting you heard. You try the word back and catch it properly this time. The boy's grin widens, the woman's eyes crease. The place isn't performing for you. It's simply doing what it always does, and you're allowed to match its tempo. Your breathing learns the city before your mind does. Step, graze, lift. Listen, turn, breathe. The walls don't merely hold space, they compose it, assigning each sound a lane. A rooster declares the obvious. Doves edit him down to something softer. The alley opens to a pocket of light where dust floats, then cools again. At a lintel, a smear of brown-red ochre marks a palm-size heaven at eye level. The elder rests his hand there. You follow, fingers warming against stone that has stored 1,000 dawns. For a moment, the place becomes a held note. Bells taper, hooves whisper, sky warms to a kinder blue. The boy taps once, a signal you feel more than you hear, and the three herders, boy, woman, and elder, tilt their heads toward the next curve. Whatever waits there will make sense when it wants to, and you don't hurry it. You have just been stitched into the morning. You walk on, shoulders unhooking the last of their travel. The walls exhale, approving. Behind you, footprints begin the slow work of becoming rumor. You angle your steps to the inner curve again. Heel low, toes soft, remember, and the elder in the apricot blanket drifts beside you like a kindly margin note. The air warms one small degree. Somewhere a rooster attempts opera, and the alley edits him to a whisper. Look up, the boy says, tapping his stick twice. Your gaze climbs the granite and finds it, a pale bird the size of your forearm, carved from soapstone, perched on a neat base of chevrons. Its head tilts, beak curved, eyes half-lidded as though the sculptor taught it to nap with authority. You feel the silly urge to reach up and pat the stone like a house cat. Restrain yourself. The bird has that museum guard energy. Polite, watchful, absolutely not here for fingerprints. The elder smiles anyway, reading your thought the way he reads hoofprints. They watch the crossings, he murmurs, hand hovering near the carving without touching. Doorways, thresholds, places where one breath becomes another. The woman with the indigo-wrapped basket arrives, sets it down, and shades her eyes to match your view. They remind us to walk soft. Walls listen. He says it as if it were the simplest truth, and suddenly you can hear it. Not just the hoof-hush and bell syllables, but the way the stone holds sound, the way a drum holds a heartbeat. The boy taps the wall again, 1, 2, and the pulse slides down the corridor and comes back thinner as though the alley sipped it. When the wind runs from the eastern hills, the alleys whisper to the courtyards. When the wind turns, the courtyards answer. You imagine messages folded into breezes, carried past baskets and fire pits, understood by anyone who has learned to keep their noise small and their patience tall. Another bird waits above the next lintel, this one with a pedestal incised in zigzag and fishbone lines. Its wings are tucked, not to fly, but to rest, like a trusted elder in a meeting who speaks only when needed. The stone is soft to the eye, a gray close to rain cloud. Some call them eagles, some call them fish eagles, some just call them the city's memory, the woman says. You may call them whatever makes you careful. You try out a name silently, Watcher, and the bird does not object. The alley slips you into a pocket of light. Dust floats like sleepy snow. A gecko freezes on the face of a rock, then vanishes with a blink switch of color. Your palm skims granite and finds a seam smoothed by many shoulders.
You feel included by repetition, folded into the simple math of touch. See the chevrons? The elder asks, nodding toward the bird's base. Water's mark. When it pours, it must be stored. When it is stored, it must be shared. When it is shared, it returns. The logic is a circle you can lean against. A breeze lifts, scented with crushed wild thyme and the milk on your breath. From somewhere high, a real bird calls, thin, silver sound, quick and clear, and for an instant the soapstone heads seem to tilt in approval. Good omen, the boy whispers with theatrical gravitas, then can't hold the grin that follows. You realize their welcome has been a slow unfolding rather than a sudden doorway swing. A gourd pressed into your hands, a step taught, a laugh shared, a secret shown. You are not a tourist here. You are a quiet guest who has promised, by walking as taught, to do no harm. You pass beneath the lintel, and the world cools again. Here the wall stones are larger, laid in rows that feel almost like woven cloth if you look too long. No mortar, just weight, shape, time, and a fraction of genius. Stacked so water drains, stacked so heat breathes, stacked so even a loud day becomes a soft evening. The boy demonstrates with a stomp in the center of the path. Don't worry, controlled experiment. And the sound puffs, not sharp. Your shoulders drop, proof measured in muscles. Far off, cattle give that contented low you have already learned to trust. The woman retrieves her basket and gestures you onward. There are more birds, but they show themselves slowly. That is their whole personality. You snort softly. The alley approves your sarcasm with a cooler draft. You pass a doorway caught in shadow and catch, on its inner jamb, a tiny incised feather. Just one, like a shorthand note the mason left for the birds. The elder notices your notice and nods, pleased. A promise, stone to sky. At a bend where the alley narrows to 2 shoulder widths, no more, you pause because everyone else does. The boy places his palm on the wall as if taking a pulse, waits, then removes it. When you hurry, you miss the city's answer. So you wait too, pretending to be a person who has never, in their entire life, refreshed an app while walking. The answer arrives in the form of breeze on your forearms, cooler, carrying bean smoke and a single syllable of laughter from the market you can't yet see. The elder's eyes sparkle. There, the hill speaks, the city hears. Another bird sits a little higher, on a stub of wall just above eye level. This one has a faint notch at the beak, a tiny imperfection that keeps it from being too perfect to love. You feel relief at the flaw. Perfection is exhausting, and you're here to rest as much as to learn. They were carved to last, but also to forgive, the woman says. You tilt your head, considering what it means for stone to be merciful. Maybe it's just the way the walls round your footsteps, turn them from noise into company. The boy's stick ticks once more, a metronome for the day. Come count calves with us, he offers, as if you haven't already decided to follow these 3 wherever their footsteps go. The elder gestures toward a brighter patch ahead where the alley opens. The birds keep their quiet vigil. You pass beneath their gaze, remembering your heel-low, toes-soft promise, and the granite seems to hum back, satisfied with your carefulness. Whatever lessons the hills send will find you if you hold still often enough and walk soft when you move.
You spill out of the last patch of cool shade with your trio. Boy with the tapping stick, woman with the indigo-wrapped basket, elder and apricot calm, and into a pale lane that has been combed by hooves. Morning circuit, the boy announces, like an MC who only performs for granite and cows. He points toward a low-walled pen where calves mill in a drowsy knot, tails swishing the dawn. You're still doing heel low, toes soft, in case the walls are grating you, and your two clean shoes continue their audition for slapstick. Counting begins not with mouths, but with breath. In, out, the woman says, touching her chest. Slow, then look. She shows you a string looped around her wrist, threaded with small seeds and 3 tiny rings of copper. As each calf nudges through the gate to its mother, she slides 1 seed along the string. 10 seeds, 3 rings, the boy translates, pleased to be your glossary. We count twice, eyes and hands. They must match. The elder nods and adds, and ears. He means the bells. Small, bright, low, slow, a duet of certainty. The gate opens with a sandy sigh. A speckled calf with a hopeful expression tries to cut first. The boy blocks with a gentle knee, chuckling. He thinks rules are a suggestion, he says, sotto voce. You file his pattern in your head. White flanks, dark freckles, a tail with a black brush, and don't yet realize you're memorizing a future problem. The calf blinks up as if to promise excellent behavior precisely until the next interesting idea occurs to him. The woman calls softly, a sound shaped like steam curling from a pot. Mothers answer in warm vowels. Calves surge in tidy pairs and threes, all elbows in optimism. The copper rings flick, 1, 2, 3, each a small sunrise on the string. You stand by the post and practice seeing. Horns that arch like question marks versus horns that grow straight with 0 interest in punctuation. Ear notches like little constellations, a blaze down a forehead like spilled milk, a hawk with the faint sheen of a healing scar. You're not good yet, but the place is patient with beginners who listen. Dust first, the elder murmurs, steering you to the path while the woman finishes the count. He kneels, palm hovering over a neat crescent pressed into the earth. Fresh edges talk, wind softens them. He taps the ridge with a fingertip. It collapses like sugar. See? An hour, maybe. A calf is light. The center is shallow. He moves to a bigger print, where the soil is crushed darker and the foredge is sharp. Cow, heavier, just now. You crouch and inhale. The dust smells like the word dry when you say it slowly. The boy draws a quick line with his stick beside a set of overlapping crescents. He says, many through here, but direction matters. He points at the tiny tongues of earth at the print's inner lip, pushed forward, catching light. Outward. He shows you a place where a hoof slipped slightly. The dragged grit points like an arrow. You cup the idea in your hands. Happy the ground can be read like a simple book if someone shows you the alphabet. A cicada saws the morning in half and then glues it back together. The pen empties its last calf. The woman lifts her string and smiles. Eyes and hands agree, she declares. 34. She says it with that particular relief of an even number. The elder cross-checks with his ear, counting the bells by intervals only he keeps, and it all balances. You exhale, irrationally proud of a job to which you contributed approximately 3 grains of competence. Now the route. The morning circuit loops from pen to pasture to water, past the market shade and the alley of echo you learn to love. We keep to the edges of talk, the elder says, meaning you follow the wall lines where sound is gentler. You move in an easy file, the herd ahead like a slow river of thought. Dust puffs, sunlight lifts, and you think again of the soapstone birds, resting, watching, approving this entire ordinary miracle of counting and going. The boy sets you tasks as if you enrolled in Dust Studies 101 without knowing. Find the calf that favors one back leg, he challenges, then grins at your panic and points anyway. A creamy youngster with a delicate hitch, healed but cautious. Spot the mother with the bell tuned too high. You listen and hear a bright, a little too insistent ting. He tweaks the tongue with a pebble, and the sound drops to a mellow clink that your shoulders like better. Tell me who ran, he says, and you scan for slightly longer strides, deeper toe marks, scattering prints around an irresistible patch of weeds. You guess? He nods. Your grin is private, and the alley, if it were here, would draft debris to celebrate this kind of observation. Between tasks, jokes drift. The woman teases the elder about counting by nostalgia. He remembers cows we sold years ago, and he returns serve with a story about a calf who hid behind his own shadow and thought himself invisible. The boy demands a prize for teaching so well, and the woman grants him first sip at noon. Of what? You ask, like a person who doesn't yet know the market under the baobab. Of milk too sour for bragging, she deadpans. You're learning their humor is soft on the outside and perfectly shaped inside. The path tightens along a wall that remembers every shoulder. You practice the turn she taught, heel low, toe soft, and your shoes finally get the bit where they stop trying to skate. A lizard flashes like a dropped coin. The boy stills, then points with his chin. A clear set of canine tracks cross the path at a lean angle. The pads are oval, the nails pressed fine, the stride economical. Wild dog, he whispers. Night work. Your skin pricks. He sets his own palm to the print, measuring. No rush, he adds, almost to himself. They moved on. The elder confirms with a sniffed wind, a check of the bird's chatter overhead. The herd does not startle. You do not either, at least not loudly. Read the droppings, the elder says, almost cheerful, and you accept that this is now your life. He toes a dark pellet. It breaks dry and pale inside. Night passed. Another, nearer the wall, smudges under his touch. Fresh, ours. The woman nods, adjusts her basket, and hums a two-note phrase that the cows seem to believe in. The rhythm carries you all, a slow, practical music for moving large thoughts through narrow places. When the path widens, Speckled Mischief, your earlier friend, tests the rope of order, drifting toward a side dat bright with weeds. The boy angles his stick and a look, nothing harsh, and the calf reconsiders with an exaggerated sigh you feel in your own chest. Later, he promises him, which is ridiculous and therefore perfect. You look back once at the neat lines of prints you'll be able to read better tomorrow. The walls aren't here, but the lesson holds. Walk soft, see clearly, count what matters twice. The morning folds around you like a well-worn blanket, and the herd flows on, steady as breath.
The herd glides ahead like a patient sentence, and your trio veers you left into a throat of stone so narrow you feel the seam of your shirt brush granite. The air cools in an instant. Your breath remembers its manners. Alley of Echoes, the boy says, voice tucked down to a hush that still carries. He raps his stick once. The sound doesn't bounce. It pours, thin as wire, down the corridor and turns the bend, as if the wall itself is a messenger with somewhere specific to be. You try it, the gentlest knuckle tap, and hear your own note unspool forward, weakening into a whisper that the walls sip. Don't punch sound, the woman says. Offer it. She cups her hand and breathes a tiny ha toward the stones.
The breath skims along the face of the rock and returns as a cooler kiss on your cheek. You actually giggle, quietly, respectfully, because yes, the alley just answered. Wind first, the elder murmurs, licking a fingertip and holding it up, as if testing soup. From the east, small friend, so the courtyards listen. He tilts his head, and you tilt yours, and the alley delivers proof. Bean smoke, and the soft slate chatter of women in the market you cannot yet see. It's like standing between two conches that learned diplomacy, one a sender, one a receiver, so long as you mind the wind's mood. At knee height, the stones are smoothed by centuries of cautious people, and at shoulder height, they still show their stubborn edges. You set your palm in a long-worn groove out of habit now, and the groove returns the favor by steadying you. Messages ride the skin of things, the woman says. Shout, and they fall dead. Whisper, and they travel. The boy demonstrates with patterns. 1 tap means open, 2 means close, 3 means careful. He shrugs. Also, sometimes it means someone is bored. You huff a smile. The wall files it under acceptable noises. You practice a short code he teaches you. 1 tap, pause, 2 taps, pause, 1 tap, longer pause, 3 taps, and send it down the alley, a cautious Morse threaded with sleepiness. Far away, from a mouth of light, 3 pebbles click in answer against stone, tossed by unseen hands. Your chest lifts with the childish triumph of a walkie-talkie that happens to be an entire city. The elder's eyes crease. Now we know the pen gate is latched and the water skin is full, he translates. Also that Noku thinks our tapping is dramatic. You hear a faint laugh arrive, which proves his last point. The alley changes width the way a river changes depth with memory. Where it narrows, sound is bright and exact. Where it blooms, sound diffuses, like milk stirred into porridge. The boy points to the floor. Small triangular steps cut invisibly into the dust. Drainage channels, he explains. Whispers for rain. See the chevron in the wall? The elder asks. And there it is. Zigzag courses laid like the city's quiet handwriting. Water's path. Sound follows patterns too. They use the corridor as a lesson. The woman hums a 2-note phrase, low, low, high, and the walls carry it forward like a ewe nudging a lamb. The herd ahead answers with a soft rearranging, bells shifting from scattered syllables to a single rolling word. You feel that word in your shoulders. Calm. She don't hear me. She hears the stone say me. You file that thought next to soapstone birds and heel low, another gentle law of this place. A pocket of light arrives, full of dust like lazy snow. A gecko freezes in the sun slice and then isn't there at all. Past it, the alley makes a blind corner. The boy holds up a palm. Stop. He kneels, places his ear to the wall like a child to a door, then points to you. Your turn. You lower your head until cool granite kisses your temple, and suddenly the world becomes a woven sound. Footsteps, soft as moth wings. A pot set carefully on compacted earth. Breath, a rustle of cloth. A giggle suppressed badly. You pull back grinning. Someone's grandmother is trying to be stealthy and failing adorably. The boy nods solemn approval. You see? No eyes needed. Send this, the elder says, and gives you a simple phrase. Tap, breathe, tap, tap, longer breath, hum. You do it, awkward as a tourist bow, and hear it go, sliding along the stone like silver thread. The answer is words in the language of pebbles and walls. A single clack, ready. Then a tiny cough of cleared throat, understood. The woman tilts her basket and rearranges something you don't need to know, ritual more than necessity. Courtyard is pouring tea. We'll be scolded if we arrive dry-mouthed. A trick gust tries to bully the message back at you, but the alley refuses with geometry. The curve catches the push and turns it soft. That bend notes keep secrets polite. He shows you a place where two corridors meet like fingers forming a flute. Here we send reminders to the pen when clouds build, and from there to the market when the pen grows noisy. No one needs to shout. Shouting is for hyenas and politics. You cannot disagree. A small theatrics. The boy claps once, cupped palmed. The clap blooms forward and returns with its edges shaved off, a velvet echo that lands somewhere near your sternum. Courtyard size, he says. Hear the shape. He claps flat-palmed. The return comes thin and papery. Alley size. He flicks the stick against stone in a triple, and the answer comes back braid-like, 3 whispers twined. Gateletch, he translates. If we ever sound that without reason, my aunt will turn me into a broom. You privately wish to meet this aunt. You walk, learning to listen like someone who has misplaced their phone and discovered that the world is interesting. The alley opens onto a tiny court with one fig tree whose leaves look like deep green hands. A length of cord hangs across a doorway, and from it clink 3 copper rings you recognize from the woman's counting string, another language of small metals. When the wind shifts, they touch and speak. Afternoon, the woman predicts. A breeze messenger. In the next stretch, a child's whistle slides along the stone and arrives as a helpful arrow. Left. You turn left and meet, of course, the child, who tries to arrange her face into stern professionalism and fails. She presents a message tied inside a rolled reed, a loop of red thread, and a tiny dried wild thyme sprig. For look, the elder interprets, accepting it with the reverence he gives everything that does not hurry. He tucks the sprig behind your ear like a city's stamp of approval. You smell it when you breathe out and in again. A final demonstration. They set you just inside a doorway and have you speak your name into the corner, voice soft. The corner gathers it, trims the bristle off it, and sends it down the wall as a calmer version of you. Someone you cannot see whispers it back. Not a mimicry, an agreement. For a heartbeat, you feel held by an architecture that edits you into your best behavior. That is why walls listen, so we can too. When the alley widens for good, the world returns to bird talk and bell syllables, and the hint of market laughter like coins in a cloth bag. The boy taps twice, and the stone obliges, delivering your arrival ahead of your feet. You catch yourself heel low, toes soft, always, because the wall might be writing this, and you would like your entry in its memory to be small, careful, and kind.
The alley's last whisper loosens into a warm square, and there it is, a baobab, holding the morning like a careful grandmother, branches lifted in that upside-down way that makes you believe trees can think. Shade puddles beneath it, cool as a hymn, and the market already hums in soft increments. Pestle, laugh, ring, fold, pour, each sound edited down by the listening walls into something your shoulders can keep. Women stand at mortars, smoothed by years of breakfast. The pestles rise and fall with the dignity of oars. Thud, then a shy thup as sorghum breaks, flour lifting in pale ghosts that the light discovers and then forgives.
A girl fans a clay brazier with a palm mat until the charcoal glows the color of patient cherries. Someone tips a gourd. Warm milk ribbons into a calabash, a white comet with a soft landing. The indigo-wrapped woman presses that bowl into your hands like a headline. You made it. The rim warms your fingers. The milk is thick and grassy, a sunrise you can sip. Your 2 clean shoes, currently behaving, sigh in relief. Under the baobab, traders unfurl their mourning like banners. One shakes out a length of cloth dyed in river blues and termite mounds. Another pours a small cascade of glass beads into a calabash, and they glitter like bottled dawn. There's a line of iron hoes with the confidence of good tools. There's salt in cakes that sweat faintly in the heat. There are baskets whose coils spiral like stories that know where they began. The boy with the tapping stick becomes a curator, lifting a bead strand to your ear as if auditioning it for a whisper. Hear it? He asks, shaking it lightly. The beads tick a tiny rain against your skin. Good for weddings. Good for walking away from arguments. You file that under life skills. No one barks prices. They pour them. A trader tips a pinch of sorghum into her palm and lets it fall back, showing grain like a promise. The elder with the apricot blanket weighs a coil of copper by eye, then by thumb, then by memory. Copper against labor, against seasons, against stories he has already told and will tell again with new punchlines. Barter is a conversation, he says, as 2 women measure cloth with outstretched arms, elbow to fingertip, breath to breath, nodding at the length as if it has passed an exam. Your city brain wants a label, a receipt, a barcode that apologizes for existing. The market smiles gently and offers you a proverb instead. You kneel to admire a shallow bowl with a rim like a quiet wave. The potter's thumbprints are a soft constellation just under the glaze, and you run your finger along them and feel the day's tempo. For sadza, the potter says, naming the maize mush you'll meet later by the fire. He taps the bowl's belly, dunk, and listens to the note. Hollow like a good story, he approves. You nod as if you had always judged bowls that way, and for the length of that nod you absolutely have. From a mat near the tree's trunk, an old man polishes a soapstone bird, small enough for a pocket, its beak curved into a perpetual almost smile. You recognize the chevrons cut beneath it. Water's mark, the elder said, and you feel the relief of continuity. The great watchful birds on the lintels, and this small cousin you could carry like a secret. Traveler's talisman, the old man murmurs, not to keep you from getting lost. Everyone gets lost, but to help you enjoy it. You raise an eyebrow. He winks. Also, it stops goats from judging you. You buy it with a twist of copper wire and a seed bead, which seems both insufficient and exactly right. Smells layer like a careful cord. Ground sorghum, warm milk, wood smoke, a streak of wild thyme from the sprig tucked behind your ear, remember the child's read message, and a drift of ferment from a clay pot of maheu, tart and comforting. The woman tilts the pot towards you. You take a cautious sip and feel your mouth pucker into a grin your face didn't plan. See? You won't survive a stone maze on city shoes without this. Gentle sarcasm, maternal accuracy. You surrender. A man in a sun-faded cap unrolls a strip of cowhide, butter soft.
stamped in a pattern that echoes the wall's chevrons. He lays it beside a bundle of iron needles long as your palm, a scatter of tin bells, and a tiny gourd with a cork that refuses to be serious. Bell tongues, he explains, shaking the gourd so they click like a distant rain. Tuning for the herd. The boy brightens, his bell problem from earlier still a fresh memory, and trades a promise to repair a fence for 2 perfect tongues. The man weighs the promise and finds it equal to metal. Before the moon fattens, he says, sealing the bargain. Before the moon fattens, the boy echoes, solemn and pleased. Laughter skims the shade like swallows. A weaver demonstrates a knot that begins nothing and ends everything, the joining tie for the rims of baskets. She loops palm fiber, flips, tucks, draws tight, then loosens to show the secret. Your fingers try, fumble, try again. The third attempt holds. For carrion calabasas, she says, then glances at your shoes. Or dignity. You accept the small round of woven grass she presses into your palm, a beginner's circle that will later remember how to become a charm. The outline in your head files this for a morning far ahead at the eastern gate. You don't know why it feels important yet, only that it does. Across the square, a singer tests a thumb piano, Mabira notes falling like cool drops into a shallow basin. The sound threads through barter and chatter, stitching corners together. The walls do their editing trick, turning sharp into soft, busy into lullaby. A goat bleats once, possible commentary, and is ignored respectfully. The elder pauses near a tray of small gourds painted with ash swirls. He lifts one, shakes it, listens to the seed rattle, and then smiles at you. For measuring patience, he says. If you can shake it slowly for 100 breaths, you are ready to argue with your cousin. You attempt 27 before laughing. We'll practice, the woman promises. Somewhere beyond the shade, a bell rings just a fraction too brightly. Your earlier adjustment hasn't reached every neck yet, and your ear turns by habit you did not own yesterday. The boy hears it too. I'll fix that one at water, he says. She likes to pretend she is a royal announcement. You imagine the speckled calf hearing that tinny sparkle and filing it under adventures. A twitch runs through your memory. White flanks, black brush tail, a taste for side gaps. The market covers the moment with another soft chord, pestle, laugh, ring, fold, pour. Barter thins as the shade slides. A trader ties up her cloth, a potter turns his bowls on their rims to cool evenly, the weaver hangs a fresh coil like a crescent moon. The elder completes one last exchange, dried gourds for a story about a storm 30 summers ago, and the woman tucks a twist of salt into her basket with the ceremony of a diplomat. The boy taps twice against the baobab's bark. The tree, being a tree, declines to echo, but a nearby wall obliges with a friendly whisper. Water, he announces. Your heel remembers low, your toes remember soft. You finish the warm milk, lick a white mustache from your lip with the gravity of a scholar, and hand back the calabash. As you turn to go, the old man with the soapstone bird calls softly. He points to the sprig of thyme behind your ear. Keep it, he says. When the alleys make 4 roads into one, smell that and choose the quietest dust. You nod. Tuck the advice beside the talisman in your pouch and follow your trio toward the corridor where shade narrows and bells grow thoughtful. The market exhales, pleased with its morning. The baobab stands patient as a lighthouse that knows the sea will always return. You slip back into the city's vein, full of milk and proverbs, edited by stone, ready for the next sentence.
The passage leans left, then right, then breathes you into a hush so open your steps forget to echo. Granite rises in careful courses, each stone set like a word that was chosen and then rechosen. The air cools as if the place keeps its own weather. The herd waits in a patient crescent against one wall, bells speaking in low, agreeable syllables. Your trio gives you a look that means, now you see. Across the packed earth within the ring of high masonry, a conical tower swells from the ground. No door, no window, only the wide-shouldered curve of stone tapering to a round, dignified top. It does not introduce itself. It does not need to. You circle, heel low, toes soft. The city is still listening, and the tower keeps pretending you're the one moving while it stands still. Up close, the stone looks like stitched hide. You can almost see the mason's breath in each line. People call it many things, the elder says, voice pitched at the tower's comfort level. A memory of grain, a praise name made stone, an instruction to breathe wider before breathing higher. He opens his own chest to demonstrate, ribs like shutters, then a slow lift only at the end. You imitate him. Your shoulders decide to stop auditioning for a stress commercial. From a low stool in the shade, a storyteller you haven't met yet lifts her chin. Her hair is wrapped in a cloth the color of rain on slate. Her eyes have the twinkle of a person who has never hurried and still arrived. Come, she says, patting the earth at her feet as if seating you in a circle that isn't drawn but is definitely there. The boy sits, tapping stick across his knees. The woman places her basket beside her like a comma ready to make sense of things. The herd settles too, the city's best audience. First lesson, the storyteller says, and gestures to the tower's belly. Round is how you keep plenty from making sharp corners in your heart. She draws a ring in the dust with one finger, then another inside it, then another smaller, the lines like ripples that forgot to move. If this is grain, it rests. If this is breath, it fills without bruising. If this is authority, she touches the smallest circle. It rises from patience, not from shouting. She looks at you as if surprised to find you here, and delighted anyway. Shouting is for hyenas, and, you remember, politics. You smile, obediently quiet. The elder adds a soft footnote. Some say a granary, some say a sign for rain. Some say both are the same story told to different kinds of ears. He points to the chevrons laid into parts of the wall near the tower, Water's handwriting again, and then to the blank steadiness of the cone. Catch, keep, share, he murmurs, echoing his market proverb. The woman nods, fingertips resting on her counting string, the copper rings winking like patient eyes. What is kept must travel, or else it spoils. The Imbira's memory from the square seems to tinkle through your ribs. Second lesson, the storyteller continues. You can't go inside it. She grins, conceding the obvious. You shouldn't. There is no door. Some things are meant to be stood beside, not conquered. You learn from their quiet like you learn from granite, by leaning, not by prying. She taps the ground with a knuckle. The sound folds itself politely into the earth. A shape with boundaries and good manners, you think, and the tower pretends not to hear your sarcasm. She has you stand, each of you, and walk a slow circle at the base,
right palm brushing the cool of stone at hip height, left palm loose at your side. Count 12 breaths. At the 12th, think one thought you'd like to carry through the day without spilling. You choose a thought that feels almost too small to justify architecture. Walk soft. At 6, a breeze clears the clutter off your tongue. At 12, the thought rings like a small bowl in a quiet room. The storyteller watches your face the way a shepherd watches a cloud line for intent. There, she says, it climbed. The boy can't resist a demonstration. He steps out into the center of the court and announces in his best big voice that he will now entertain the city with a speech longer than the baobab's patience. His words slap the wall, bounce, tangle, and return as a messy bouquet that even he looks sorry to sniff. The storyteller raises an eyebrow. The boy bows to the tower and trades sighs for shape, letting his voice travel the curve. He does not get louder, he gets rounder. The words slide and return with their edges smoothed, understandable even to the cows who chew approval. You feel your throat want to learn that trick. Third lesson, the storyteller says, and nods to the elder, who obliges by producing a palmful of seeds from somewhere in the apricot fold. He pours them into your hands, warm, light, trouble if scattered, promise if held. Grain teaches counting. Counting teaches tending. Tending teaches staying. You remember the morning's string, seeds in copper rings, and the even number that felt like a door closing gently. The speckled calf flicks an ear as if this applies to him as well. It will, and you don't know it yet. A small joke slides in on lizard feet. The woman points to the tower's top, how it rounds instead of pinching, and whispers, "Even our highest things are allergic to sharp hats." You snort too audibly and clap your hand to your mouth. The tower, to its credit, remains dignified. The storyteller's eyes crease. Yes, we do not poke the sky, we greet it. She shifts to story, the old kind that sits down inside you and rearranges the furniture. Once the hills kept rain in their pockets and forgot to share. The people laid stone gently, not to trap the water, never that, but to remind it. Round like gourds, round like bellies after harvest, round like a song where the chorus returns with better manners. When rain came, it found places already shaped to receive it. When it left full mouths and patient tempers. A tower is a polite request spoken for 100 seasons, she concludes. It says, "We are ready." You look up again and the sky above the circle has the pale look of a thought that might turn into cloud by afternoon. The boy tests a bell tongue he bargained for at the market, swapping it into a tin bell whose voice was too bright, and the change is immediate. The tone drops from brag to conversation. The cows sigh. "See," he says, "round the sound." The elder's mouth tilts, amused. The woman gives you a conspirator's nod, the kind you collect so you can spend them later, perhaps at the eastern gate with a woven charm you don't know you'll need. Before you leave, the storyteller asks for your reed message, the wild thyme sprig tucked behind your ear. You pass it over like a passport. She crushes the tiniest leaf between finger and thumb, breathes its green into the air, and touches a dot of scent to the tower's base. Reminder, for choices. Then she tucks the sprig back snug behind your ear, where its whisper can find you when alleys turn into many roads. You thank the tower by stepping softer than you did a minute ago. The herd rises as one slow sentence. Your trio tilts you toward the path that climbs toward the whispering hills. Rain songs ahead, though you don't know the words yet. And behind you, the tower stays what it has always been. A breath held kindly, a promise shaped like patience, a listen you can revisit with your feet. As you go, you hear your name become rounder in your own mouth. The walls, of course, approve.
The path tilts toward stone that feels older than your hurry, and you climb in the rhythm you've been taught. Heel low, toes soft, because even hills have opinions about footsteps. Granite shoulders rise on either side like dozing elephants. Lichens write their slow alphabets across the backs of boulders. Wind passes between the rocks and turns syllables into breath. Whispering hills, the elder says, pleased to state what your skin already knows. The herd waits below in a pale meadow like an unrolled thought, bells agreeing quietly with the morning. The boy leads you along a goat-width track, tapping rock when the dust pretends to be path. The woman keeps pace with the kind of balance that convinces gravity to be polite. At a saddle where two ridges make a meeting place for weather, you find the shrine. No door, no walls, only a ring of upright stones and a flat altar stone in the center, the size of a sleeping ox. Clay pots squat at the ring's base, their mouths sealed with leaves. Gourds rest in hollows like cupped hands. A braid of grass and ash marks a circle the size of your patience. A pair of elders sit in the shade of a tilt-shouldered rock, one wrapped in slate gray, one in a cloth that has known rain and sun until it learned humility. Their faces are the kind that smile by default and save severity for things like lightning and careless jokes. You come soft, the slate-gray elder observes, approving your fresh talent for not stumping. Good, we sing better to listeners. He gestures you into the ring with a palm that could part clouds if it wanted. You step where he points, a half-breath behind the woman, a half-step ahead of the boy, your time sprig behind your ear reminding you to choose the quiet dust. The other elder pours a sip of water onto the stone and it darkens with gratitude. We ask, she says. We do not demand. Demanding is for hyenas and politics. Everyone's mouth twitches. The joke has the good manners to be quiet. The first notes are not notes at all, but breath. Long in, longer out, until your shoulders slide off the day like a shawl from a hook. Then vowels, wide and round like the conical tower taught you to be. Ooh, that opens into O, that opens into ah, the sound a gourd might make if it could hum. The slate-gray elder lays his palm on the altar stone. The woman mirrors him, and you follow. The rock is cool as shady water. Listen for the hill's answer, he says. At first you hear nothing but your own ambition trying too hard. Then something threads back, the tiniest tremor like a lizard's footfall, then a draped hush carrying bean smoke, then the faint clink of copper rings from a courtyard below. The hill edits your voice into something the sky might consider. You try a line alone and produce a noise like a confused kettle. A termite mound, frankly judgmental, appears to raise an eyebrow. The boy's grin does a mercy and looks away. Not louder, the elder advises. Rounder. He shapes your mouth with 2 fingers, kind, exact, and you attempt again. The tone softens, then settles, then returns with a little curve at the end as if the hill has signed its name beside yours. The woman adds a thread of harmony, the tiniest braid. Fold into it, she murmurs. You do, and the sound holds. Between phrases, the rainkeepers teach you timing. Sing when the wind runs from east to west so the courtyards can carry. Pause when it turns so the courtyards can answer. Let the alleys be flutes and the walls be drums that practice restraint. The slate-gray elder plucks a blade of grass and holds it at shoulder height. When it leans, you lean. When it steadies, you steady.
"Our choir director," the boy whispers, reverent and ridiculous at once. You bark a laugh before remembering that laughter was invented for places like this and is therefore allowed. They show you offerings without drama. A bowl of millet to say, "We remember hunger." A smear of fat to say, "We remember sharing." A string of beads laid on stone to say, "Beauty should be present even when the sky is busy." The ring of stones wears old scorch marks and new pollen. You learn the order the way you learned heel low, by watching, then doing, then letting your muscles learn faster than your hurry. When your turn comes to set a pinch of grain where the water darkened the rock, you think of the seeds the storyteller poured into your hand, of the conical tower's lesson, catch, keep, share, and your fingers find the rhythm without your head telling them to. Cloud talk begins somewhere beyond the ridge, a sound halfway between a cart rolling and a drum being polite. The slate-gray elder cocks his ear. "They are thinking about it," he says, not unlike a generous teacher grading an essay. He lifts the lowest line of song, and everyone folds in around it. Men's voices like carved bowls, women's like woven baskets, yours like a beginner's gourd trying its best. The hills take the edges off your effort and return it usable. From down in the meadow, a bell rings a hair too bright. Your old friend who enjoys making royal announcements, and the boy's eyes cut that way. "At water," he mouths. You nod. The thread of tomorrow's problem tugs once and then goes slack. When the wind shifts, the elders shift with it, and the song pivots like a flock that agrees without meeting about it. You feel it before you hear it. The time by your ear wakes and says, "Choose." You leave air in your notes, space like the alleys left in their walls for rain to speak. A real bird, fish eagle, maybe? Your soapstone tutors would approve, sketches a thin silver line across the sky and vanishes into brightness. Your chest remembers the storyteller's instruction and rounds its breath. Your voice stops auditioning for applause and begins auditioning for weather. Between verses, the woman leans and speaks without moving her mouth. If the clouds come, good. If the clouds refuse, also good. We are not choosing a mood, we are practicing belonging. You nod, slow enough that the nod becomes a sentence. The slate-gray elder hears your shoulders relax and smiles without looking. "Now you are singing," he says, and you believe him enough to not try to believe him harder. The last phrase is a ribbon laid down gently. The elders pour another sip. The altar stone drinks like a desert in miniature. The clouds decide to be undecided, two thin curtains, drawing but not yet closing. And everyone accepts this with the kind of shrug that is not a shrug, but a plan to keep tending goats and repairing fences and tuning bells. Rain listens best to people who can wait, the elder says, binding the lesson like a cord. He presses a small knot of woven grass into your palm. For the road that splits four ways, he adds. Smell the thyme. Choose the quiet dust. You tuck the knot beside your soapstone talisman. Your pocket becomes a toolkit for patience. You descend with the care of a letter being mailed by hand. No smudges, please. Wind writes across your forearms. In the meadow, the herd has turned its heads in the same direction, as if reading one sentence the sky just published. A tin bright ring flirts at the edge of hearing. The boy marks it, promises it a new tongue. The woman hums the two-note call the walls like to carry. The elder blesses your ankles with two words you don't need to translate. You step onto the path, and the hill releases you with a sigh you feel in your calves. The whispering keeps on without you, which, somehow, is the point.
Trouble peels off the morning as quietly as a sticker corner. One moment, the herd is a calm river. The next, a ripple lifts, and a speckled calf, your white-flanked, freckle-happy scholar of side gaps, discovers a hole in the fence of good intentions. He hesitates exactly long enough to convince you he won't, then he absolutely does. Slips through a notch bright with weeds and vanishes into a seam between two granite alleys that smells like warm dust and wild thyme. The boy's stick freezes mid-tap. The woman's breath does a small, decisive in-out. The elder says nothing at all, which is the local equivalent of a siren. Soft, the woman warns, palm down. If we turn the day loud, he runs louder. The herd, practiced at not making drama worse, ripples once and settles. Bells muttering reassurance, like elders on a porch. You angle heel low, toes soft, of course, and slide after your trio into the calf-sized door the time has been advertising to delinquent hearts. The first bend is a whispering throat, cool as a clay jug. The smell of thyme is brighter here, a green note that nudges memory, the reed message tucked behind your ear, the old man's market advice. When four roads become one, choose the quiet dust. The boy kneels to the ground and reads the dust like a familiar letter. Fresh, he says, fingertip collapsing the sharp lip of a tiny crescent. See how the toe prints are shallow, light, still learning to be hooves. He trotted, not ran. Mercy. The elder leans toward the wall and sends a pinched trill along the granite, a call smaller than a bird's, but it travels like a careful rumor. Somewhere ahead, two pebbles reply. Not a courtyard, a child. The woman answers with the two-note phrase the walls like to carry, low, low, high. And you listen as it glides around a bend and returns thinned but intact. Noku, the boy translates, naming the courtyard comedian. She saw a tail. You grin despite yourself. Of course Noku is part of this. At a T-junction, the wind decides to turn unhelpful and blow from everywhere at once. Dust lies undisturbed to the right, scuffed to the left. Your certainty, that fragile new thing you've been cultivating, wobbles. The woman taps your ear, a reminder. Time. You lift the sprig, breathe, and the world organizes. The left path carries goat, ash, and the ghost of a spilled sour milk. The right offers only hot stone and pride. Quiet dust, you whisper, and point left. The elder's mouth makes a small curve that feels like a promotion. You move as if the alley is a sleeping child's room. Ahead, a bell tinkles a hair too bright, the royal announcer you promised to tune at water, and you realize how a sound can be a lure, how mischief can borrow bravery from sparkle. The boy frowns at the bell's arrogance, then at his own delay. My fault, he murmurs, not as punishment, just as data. He pulls the tiny gourd of bell tongues from his pouch and slips one in his palm, a plan folded small. A smear appears where a flank brushed rock, pale hair caught in a lichen's patient grip. Here, you whisper, your first find leading with humility. The boy nods, pleased without spending time on praise. He crouches and traces where small hooves skipped, then slowed, then reconsidered. He stopped at the cool, he says, pointing to a damp seam in the wall where night kept a memory of water. Your own throat tightens in sympathy. You picture the calf's tongue painting the stone, and then, what? A sound like a half-idea drifts back, a low cough. Not human, not threat yet, not nothing. The alley splits again,
this time into 4 mouths. Soapstone birds sit above 2 of them, their carved eyes doing that disconcerting approval thing. You feel suddenly examinable. The elder shows you how to listen with your skin, palm flat to each wall. Breathe. Let the stone tell you which corridor is holding its breath and which is exhaling goats, pots, laughter, risk. The time behind your ear says, gently, quiet dust. 2 paths are scuffed with recent hurry. One is a parade of ants and patience. One wears a smear of fresh, crushed weeds, a calf's favorite salad. You point, and the woman is already moving. Signals braid through stone. The boy clicks a code. Tap, tap, pause, tap. Courtyard, eyes open. Pebble replies, understand. A child's whistle pours around a corner, trying to be stern. It lands as helpful. Left again, the boy interprets, and you fold into the turn, shoulders remembering not to race. Then hoofprints trip and scatter in a burst of punctuation. The calf saw something. Light, shade, a lizard auditioning for drama, and zigzagged. The boy holds up a hand. The elder lowers to one knee, ear to the ground like the world's gentlest detective. He tilts his head. Birds alarmed, he says, far off, quick clacks like sewing, then calm. The woman's face doesn't change, which is more informative than panic. She passed the thicket, she decides, speaking to the air, to you, to the walls that are taking minutes. A narrow squeeze demands dignity. You exhale down your spine and slide through. Your ribs count stones like beads. On the other side, light expands into a pocket court hung with a crooked reed gate. The gate mutters in the breeze. Beyond it, prints puddle and gather at a round depression where the ground darkens, the edge of a rock cistern, capped and latched. You'll learn its craft tomorrow. Right now you only learn its manners. Safety trumps curiosity. The elder touches the lid with affection. Water from stone, he promises the lesson ahead, then scans the dust's grammar. Tiny crescents drift away from the cistern toward a lane blue with shade. A shape flicks at the corner of vision, the exact pattern of white flank and black brush tail that has haunted your morning. You feel the body's unhelpful reflex, a gasp, a shout. Rise and you catch it, round it, tuck it down where the tower taught you to hold your breath. The woman spreads her fingers, lowering the air. The boy produces a bell tongue like a coin trick and shows it to the too bright bell on a patient cow who has appeared as if conjured by need. In one swift, practiced motion, he swaps tongues. The bell's voice falls from trumpet to conversation. The herd exhales, as if a stiff collar has been unbuttoned. The calf halts, ears like little question marks, eyeing the grown-up bell that no longer sounds like adventure. The woman hums the 2-note phrase, low, low, high, and the wall carries it like a grandmother's hand. The elder adds one soft click, the meaning of open. You angle your body away, becoming a shape the calf doesn't have to flee, and look nowhere and everywhere, the way you were taught to let skittish things choose peace. The time breathes again beside your jaw. Quiet dust, quiet dust. The calf blinks, blinks again, then steps toward the sound that stopped bragging. He edges past the reed gate, brushes the lichen that held his earlier hair, pauses, because of course, and then commits, trotting small commas back into the sentence where mothers wait. The boy's grin is a sunrise trying not to get ahead of itself. The woman does not gloat. She inventories the calf with a glance, finds him intact, and gifts the moment no words. The elder taps once on the wall. The pebbles in the distance answer, 3 clicks that translate to, "Got him." You feel the laugh that wants out turn into something better, a breath that doesn't need to prove anything. The walls, editor-in-chief of the day, approve the revision. The herd resumes being a river. Somewhere above, the sky considers the idea of evening. You pocket a new instruction beside your soapstone bird and woven knot. When things run, lower the volume. Round the sound. Choose the quiet dust.
Dusk glides in with long cat feet, violet draped over the granite, bells dimming themselves to courtesy. The herd gathers into a living comma, calves tucked in the curve, mothers on the outside like punctuation that keeps a sentence from running away. The boy's stick quiets. The woman's hum lowers until it feels like a pocket you could keep a heartbeat in. You match your breath to the tower's lesson, round on the inside, low on the outside, and let evening edit your edges down. The first warning is not claws or growls, it's grammar. Birds that usually gossip in little question marks switch to clean exclamation points. One sharp chatter from the thorn bush to your right, another echoing further along the wall. The elder tips his face like a guy reading the subtitles the hill provides. "Careful," he says, and the word lands like a woven mat under everyone's steps. The boy angles you slightly downwind. "Keep our smell behind us," he murmurs. "Let the night sniff someone else's headlines." At the alley mouth, the sand looks silver where Moon has started to audition. The boy kneels and points to a round print with 4 plump toes and no nail marks. "Cat," he says, finger hovering. "See how the heel pad is wide and these 2 top lobes? Dog leaves scratches. Cat keeps a secret." You lean in. The edges are crisp. The center is soft where weight pressed and lifted. A second print overlaps, offset, a stealthy sentence written slant. Your throat tries to be dramatic. Your training tells it to be round and not waste adjectives. The woman unknots a small strip of palm fiber and wraps 2 bright bells, muting them to a considerate murmur. "Royal announcements are for daytime," she says. A cow flicks her ear, approving the new modest wardrobe. The elder picks up a crumb of soil and tastes it like a chef checking salt. He nods toward the thorn shade where the sand has been brushed in 2 long arcs. "Drag marks," he notes, gentle as a librarian. Earlier, something with hooves. A full hunter is a lazy hunter. He does not promise safety. He promises sense. Signals pass along the stone like moth wings. The boy slips his tapping code, tap, tap, pause, tap, into the wall. The answer comes from 2 turns ahead, understood, moving slow. Somewhere a pebble clicks thrice, careful, then once, open. You admire a city where even warning sounds take their shoes off before entering. You arc the herd into a shape the night respects. Calves central, mother's outer ring, humans at the seams where curiosity could leak. Your job is simpler than your feelings. Be a quiet fence that breathes. You make yourself tall without being pointy, your shoulders learning a useful contradiction. The boy gives you the gourd rattle that measures patience. "Shake only when you forget to breathe," he whispers. You do forget, twice in the first minute. The seeds tisk you back into rhythm. A guinea fowl detonates out of the brush like a comedic grenade. You do not jump. You jump a little. The woman's hum catches you mid-flinch and sets you down. Bird says, "I saw something." Bird does not say, "Run in circles." You nod as though your vertebrae require consensus. The elder crouches again and lays his ear to the ground. The sound he's listening for is not a snarl. It's the absence between small noises, the way mice decide to wait, the way cicadas choose to be less enthusiastic for a verse. He rises with his answer. "Moving past," he says. Shadow chooses a different sentence. You slide forward, heel low, toes soft, letting the alley serve as chaperone. Moonlight threads between stones and paints the prints brighter. Round, round, pause. Cross of a tail brushing a blade of grass. A neat step on a rock to hide scent. A learning for your eyes that your feet file under, walk softer, anyway. The boy points to a small scat, a black twist with hair in it, and your city brain briefly nominates a different hobby. Last night, he judges. Tonight's is somewhere else. A calf shifts, broadcasts worry in a high, paper-thin whine. The woman answers by placing her palm on its shoulder blade and pressing a syllable of calm straight into muscle. The sound you make, ah, on the breath out, rounded, tower style, helps more than it should given your resume. You say it again. The calf considers your credentials and lowers his head to chew. Victory! Minor, useful. The alley narrows, flares, then tucks tight. At a pinch point, the sand holds a masterpiece. One big print pausing mid-step, toes splayed slightly, heel pad heavy, weight considering choices. You can see the moment the cat thought, you think, and then chose to continue. The elder smiles at your face, learning to read the space around a thing. He says, not just the thing. He gestures to the wall where your earlier code still seems to hum. Good for cities, good for nights. Beyond the pinch, the air cools as if someone opened a careful jar. You smell water below the stone, just a rumor, but true. Filed in the same drawer as tomorrow's lesson. The boy's stick lifts not to tap but to point. On the far side of the lane, a tail tip writes punctuation just before vanishing behind a rock. No body, only the idea of a body. Your chest tries to publish a panic. You refuse to approve the draft. You think of the storyteller, of round authority, of how shouting is for hyenas and the other thing, and you select whisper instead. We see you, your bones say without speaking. We are not prey practicing denial. We are a herd practicing choreography. Time braids itself thinner. The leopard does what leopards have always done, ignores you expertly, which is weirdly generous. The herd does what herds have always done, believes in the circle, trusts the low song, accepts the presence of teeth in the world without offering a neck. You do what students have always done. Copy the homework of people who have tested it for generations. When the last exclamation points of bird talk dissolve back into gossip, the boy unknots the muted bells, letting them return to their respectable clink. He rubs the gourd with his thumb and listens to the seeds. 93, he announces. Breaths you remembered or forgot, who can say? Passable. The woman gives you a sip from a clay cup that tastes like cool and a little like courage. The elder taps the wall once, and somewhere ahead fire replies, a tiny hiss pop as someone coaxes coals. Night pan is ready, he translates. We'll sleep near stone. You look back and see the lesson you didn't know you came for. The silver script of Prince unspooling into dark. Your own footsteps edited down to kindness. The herd a punctuation mark that has decided to end the sentence with calm. The thyme behind your ear breathes its approval. Choose the quiet dust, it reminds. You already did. And the night, pleased with your manners, lets you pass.
Thirst doesn't knock, it nips. Small, polite reminders at the back of your tongue as the herd's comma shape unspools toward a darker fold of stone. Water, the boy says, and the word travels ahead, learning the alley's manners on the way. Your feet, remember, heel low, toes soft. The woman smooths her palm down the nearest cow's neck as if pressing a thought into a page. Patience. The elder tips his head toward the chevrons cut into the wall courses, Water's handwriting, and you follow their zigzag logic the way you followed hoofprints at dawn. The first thing you meet is not a pool, but a puzzle. Granite lips shape a shallow bowl at ground level, rilled with tiny channels like careful wrinkles. A trickle you can't see has been teaching the dust to darken along those lines. Beyond the bowl rises a flat capstone, waist-high, its edges beveled and its middle pierced by a round throat sealed with a cork of carved wood. A braided grass cord ties cork to cap. A stone weight holds the cord because monkeys are both charming and unhelpful. Hidden tank, the elder says. Catch, keep, share. The tower's lesson returns, pleased with how many outfits it can wear. First flush, the woman adds, pointing at the shallow bowl. Always let the sky rinse its pockets before you drink its coins. She lifts the bowl's reed plug with 2 fingers. The dust-brown water swirls out, carrying leaf bits and day's grit, and slides away along a sleeve of stone toward a thirsty patch of earth that looks grateful for any gossip from above. When the bowl clears, she seats the plug and nods at the capstone. Now, the sweet part. The boy unknots the weight cord, twists the grass braid, and palms the wood cork with the reverence of someone arriving at the punchline of a long, good joke. It resists. Stone and wood have a relationship that requires counseling. And he doesn't wrestle. He rounds. A wiggle, a breath. A wiggle, a breath. The way the storyteller taught you to move words around the conical tower. The cork sighs free. Cool air climbs your face. You smell stone, shade, and the metallic rumor of deep water that hasn't met sunlight all day. He lowers a gourd on a hide thumb with a gentleness you want to learn for everything. No slapping, he reminds himself aloud. We don't wake it angry. The gourd finds the surface with a polite kiss. You hear a hollow note ring up the throat, a sound like a small drum deciding to be patient. Sound tells level, the elder murmurs. He taps the capstone lightly with a knuckle. Dunk. The note's depth says full enough for generosity. He slips a reed marked in thumb-width notches down the throat and draws it out, wet, to the 4th notch from his memory's standard. Good, he pronounces, and you believe him because of the calm in his mouth. Trouble makes its scheduled cameo. The too bright bell, your royal announcer, decides to contribute editorial flourishes exactly when silence is the fashion. The cow lifts her head, proud of her punctuation.
The boy, already primed by an entire day's foreshadowing, produces the new bell tongue from his tiny gourd, swaps it with the speed of a magician and the tenderness of a tailor, and the bell's voice drops from trumpet to conversation. The herd nomases like shoulders notice a chair that finally fits. Better, the woman approves. Now even water will listen. There is craft here you only see because they let you. A cloth sieve goes over the gourd's lip, catching leaf needles and moth wings and a single heroic ant who is escorted to a pebble with formal apologies. A trickle path carved into the cap's edge leads toward a low trough fitted tight to the stones, its inside rubbed smooth with clay and ash. Ash keeps the lips sweet, the elder says, dusting his palm across it, and tells the nose if the water has turned stubborn. He means sour. He refuses to insult it. You carry the first gourd with both hands, as though containing advice you don't want to spill, and pour into the trough. Moon answers. There's the shine the outline promised, as the surface takes one long breath of silver and then settles. Mothers drink first, then calves, then humans, then jokes. That's the order here. A calf, your speckled thesis in legs, attempts to baptize his nose deeper than necessary. The woman's eyebrow retrieves him to practicality. You try a sip from a second gourd after everyone who is not you has sipped. The water is cold in the way patience is cold. Not unfriendly, just uninterested in hurry. It tastes like a sentence that started as rock and learned verbs. A lesson blooms while you work. The elder shows you stone gutters higher up the wall, narrow seams that grab rain and shepherd it toward the cap. He says, "Stones breathe. We build so their breath becomes a promise." He indicates a slate set at half slope, leaf litter brushed back. When cloud shoulders shake in the wet season, those slates sluice like one long hand passing a bucket line. In the dry, a cloth tied above the capstone sips dew and gives it up at dawn. "A city that doesn't shout still drinks," the boy says, pleased with himself for crafting a proverb. You loan him your grin. Maintenance is a ritual with jokes baked in. The woman rubs the cork with a smear of fat so it seals without sulking. The boy checks the grass braid for wear because baboons adore unsupervised cords. You learn the warning about lids left ajar. If we forget, tomorrow we find frogs singing theology. He doesn't mind frogs in theory. He dislikes their opinions on hygiene. He taps the cap with 2 knuckles, a thank you, and replaces the cord under its stone weight. Your palm follows his, and the cap seems to store the heat of your touch like a password. When the last mouth is polite and the trough's mirror is only moon, you help wipe the lip with a twist of clean grass. The herd has found its evening personalities again, chewers, dozers, the calf practicing skepticism, and the too bright bell, now round, refuses to brag. You set your ear to the capstone and imagine you can hear water thinking slowly in the dark. Maybe you can. The walls have taught you stranger things. On the way back toward fire, the boy balances the empty gourd on his head and walks the alley's seam like a threader, daring gravity to object. Gravity, a traditionalist, does not. The woman hums the 2 notes that the corridors like to carry, low, low, high, and the sound tucks the herd into the night like a blanket's edge. The elder falls into step beside you and gestures toward the chevrons one more time. "Catch," he says. A few paces later, "Keep." At the pen gate where embers blink with patient eyes, "Share." You could live your whole life on those 3 and not run out. You arrive at the glow with a throat that is no longer being nipped. The hidden tanks sit behind you, sealed and shining internally like secrets that know when to speak. Ahead, the first Mbira notes test the dark. Your bones recognize the invitation. Water in stone, fire on earth, breath in chest. This city has a way of giving your verbs back to you.
Fire is a quiet animal tonight. Low shoulders, orange breathing, a patience that invites your own. The first Mbira pattern slips into the air like moonlight poured through a colander. Bright dots, then echo, then the soft pad of thumbs finding home again on metal tines. You sit where the ground remembers other evenings, heels dug in just enough to keep the day from sliding. The boy places the little piano on a calabash to carry its voice. The gourd answers with a wooden glow, and suddenly sound has a round belly, just like the tower advised. The woman eases a pot from coals. Steam sighs, carrying the clean smell of sadza, maize meal stirred until it grows structure and decides to be certainty. She turns the paddle with the kind of wrist you could set a clock by, folding the thick porridge until it stops arguing. On a flat stone, greens, laced with groundnuts, glisten, and a clay cup waits with soured milk, tart and companionable. Catch, keep, share, the elder remarks, which tonight means serve first the mouths that don't speak your language, then the ones that do. Calves sleep in a comma of warmth, mothers chew, large thoughts turning. You take your place after theirs, and the order puts the hunger somewhere polite. Your portion lands in your palm like a small moon. You roll a ball of sadza with your fingers, press a dent, lift greens, taste. The first bite is the color of calm. The second suggests that all day you were rehearsing for this, the way the sour hums against the starch, the way the groundnut steps in and says, "We will be fine." The boy pretends not to watch your face and fails. You pretend not to be caught and fail better. The woman hides a smile in steam. The imbir player, an uncle by vibe, if not by genealogy, tilts the instrument and speaks between phrases. Stories are just the evening's way of counting, he says. We go back through our steps until the walls nod. He plays a pattern that sounds like the alley's geometry, then another that feels like counting calves with seeds and rings. Then one more that drops from bright to mellow the way the bell did when you traded tongues. Round it, he murmurs, and your shoulders try the instruction on and decide to keep it. Circles of talk unwind. The elder tells a tale about a storm that arrived with great ambition, then reconsidered its life choices at the last hill and left its reign in the next valley out of shyness. Everyone nods. You have met that cloud. The woman recounts the day the baobab refused to echo the boy's dramatic tapping and how a nearby wall, feeling generous, did the job, thereby making a theologian out of a tree and a diplomat out of masonry. The boy, cornered into confession, admits he once attempted to count calves by how much personality each one had, and ended the morning with a number that was not a number, but a herd of adjectives. The laughter is the soft kind that fixes rather than phrase. Your turn sneaks up on you. You tell the small story of the time sprig, the read message tucked behind your ear, the four-way split where dust argued, the moment the smell rearranged the world into sense. You tell it simply, no power chords, no heroics, and the circle listens as if you are describing a new tool everyone might borrow. The elder nods. A road chooses you when you choose how to breathe, he says, as if finishing a proverb you started on accident. The Mbira lifts into a tune with steps you could follow if you lived here long enough. 2 notes like a gate opening, 4 like feet on stone, 3 like a small chorus of birds reconsidering gossip. The player hums along. The woman answers with a harmony that floats on the border of hearing. The fire edits sparks into stars that get the joke and wink back. You think of the conical tower, how it taught your words to be round, and you try speaking to the flame the way you did to stone. Your voice comes out smaller than you expect and kinder than you deserve. The flame approves by doing nothing dramatic. Food slides toward memory. Fingers shine and are wiped on grass with the ceremony of people who know the difference between stain and story. The elder lifts a calabash, tips a mouthful back to the earth, for those who used to sit here and still do, and drinks. You match the gesture, clumsy but sincere. The knight takes your offering with good manners. A moth bumbles through the firelight like a scholar late to class, and is escorted away by a breeze before it can enroll in the wrong course. Talk leans toward the walls. Someone mentions the soapstone birds and how their calm faces make children believe in listening. Someone else recalled a line of traders arriving one dry season, their cloth carrying the sea in its blue, and their beads speaking a dialect the market learned in an afternoon. No one turns facts into trophies, they fold them into the fabric. Granite that breathes, alleys that edit, a city that kept remembering how to be itself even when voices traveled far and returns took time. The boy offers you the gourd rattle, the patience counter, and challenges you to 100 slow shakes without losing breath to opinions. You make it to 89 before a goat off to your left issues a critique. You reset, laughing, and finish. Pass, he says, awarding you nothing but the fact of it. The woman presses a small smear of ash on the back of your wrist, then wipes it away. For sealing the day, she explains, it keeps your thoughts from leaking out while you sleep. The elder draws a chevron in the dust between you and the fire, water sign again, and smooths it flat with his palm. For remembering and forgetting in equal measure, both are crafts. When the Mbira rests, the silence that arrives is not emptiness, but a full bowl. You can hear the cow's breath, you can hear your name reshaped by everything you learned to round. You can hear in the wall's polite hush the faintest rehearsal of tomorrow, which will begin with soft bells and dust you now know how to read. Somewhere, farther off than comfort, but nearer than worry, night feet move in their own sentences and leave yours alone.
Night has shoulders now, broad and gentle. Fire flickers to a low vowel, and the herd, content, reassembled, draws itself toward the pen. You rise with your trio and become part of the night's punctuation again, a small comma moving a larger sentence along. Heel low, toes soft. Even the darkness expects good manners. The boy balances the empty gourd on his crown until gravity signs a peace treaty. The woman lifts her basket. The elder touches the dust with 2 fingers as if checking the city's pulse. Steady. The alley takes you back the way it knows best, by editing your footsteps until they sound like gratitude. Walls that hummed with market mischief at noon now breathe in their sleep. You feel the change on your forearms, a hush like cool cloth. Somewhere, a child's pebble clicks twice. Noku on bedtime duty, we assume, then once more as a good-night wink. You answer by tapping your palm against stone. Hello. Hush. And the alley carries it forward as if tucking in distant courtyards. A calf presses your thigh, the speckled scholar of side gaps. He nuzzles, then pretends it never happened, because reputation. The woman smooths his poll
and checks the black brush tail for burrs. "Ambition removed," she says, freeing a stubborn seed, and the calf breathes the bovine equivalent of poetry. The boy, unable to resist ceremony, gives the newly tuned bell a final modest shake. Its voice is now a warm syllable that belongs to water and sleep. You consider submitting an official apology to the city for ever liking the brighter clink. Soapstone birds hover in their lentil kingdoms, pale heads tilted, chevrons beneath them whispering water's handwriting. In moonlight, they look almost awake. You raise a hand, not touching, only offering, and they accept the air of your palm as if that also counts. "They watch crossings," the elder murmurs, repeating his morning sentence so it can become an evening blessing. You feel blessed, which is not your usual bedtime metric, and file that under growth. Wind parcels scents in careful envelopes: wood smoke, goat, clean ash, the green breath of the time that still rides behind your ear. At a bend where the alley narrows to shoulder width, the elder pauses and listens with skin instead of ears. You copy him. The granite has a low murmur, like a lake speaking under ice. "Sleepy stones," the boy translates, unable to let a good mystery pass without commentary. The woman swats his elbow with a look that says it's a temple even when it's a hallway. He swallows his grin, then fails to hide it entirely. Gate ahead, a reed-lashed rectangle with a latch that prefers rhythm to force. The boy taps 1, 2, slow, and the latch releases with a sigh that suggested it has also been singing all evening and would like a rest. Inside, the pen is a soft geometry of bodies and breath. Calves coil into commas again. Mothers make the perimeter into a sentence that says, "Enough now." You help with the smallest chores, straighten a slat, not afraid tie, move a rock 2 fingers width away so hooves won't argue with it at dawn. None of this is heroic. All of it is medicine. The Eldon lifts his counting string. Seeds slide back to their starting side. Copper rings click the day closed, not with a slam, but with a librarian's patience. 34 and none missing, he confirms. The number's doubling is a benediction. You think of your morning self, counting with eyes and hands and lungs. The day has co-signed your education with hoofprints and a repaired bell. The woman drapes a twist of salt in a dry nook near the gate, tomorrow's market in a pocket, then dots your wrist with ash once more, sealing sleep the way a potter seals a lid. So your thoughts don't spill, she reminds you, as if the mind were a calabash that gets tipsy after stories. Leaving the pen, you take the long way back on purpose to pass the conical tower in the moonlight. It looks like breath made stone, as before, but gentler, an exhale that has all night to happen. You circle once, 12 quiet breaths, palm to cool curve. Your one thought rides again, walks soft, and returns rounder, as if the tower filed its corners smoother while you weren't looking. Somewhere beyond, a guinea fowl mutters in sleep. Even skeptics dream, the boy whispers. You admire the theological range of birds. The square under the baobab is a bowl of dark with a rim of starlight. Traders' mats lie rolled like commas waiting for morning clauses. The mbira's last notes still seem to float above the ground, not heard by ears, but heard by ankles. You place the tiny soapstone bird the old man carved back into your pouch, beside the woven starter circle and the patience rattle. Your pocket now rustles like a toolkit. But for what? The woman catches your wondering. For leaving well, she says. Same craft is staying, different doorway.
You reach the sleeping walls that taught you to listen. The boy gives you a final code to send down them. Tap, breathe, tap, tap, long breath, hum. And it leaves your fingers with a confidence you did not own this morning. From far ahead, a single pebble answers, quiet as a smile in the dark. You imagine Noku, still awake, rolling her eyes and then grinning into her blanket. The city, which never brags, approves by doing what it always does, carrying, returning, editing, keeping. Stars rim the black vault as promised, bright punctuation without a sentence to apologize for. You lie down on a mat that knows every shoulder in this courtyard and let your bones arrange themselves in the grammar of rest. The elder sits near the fire and hums a fragment of rain song that doesn't mind if clouds choose sleep. The woman tucks indigo around her basket. The boy puts the gourd rattle near your hand in case your dreams need reminding about breath. Just before your eyes slip, the time by your ear releases one last small instruction. When morning splits the alleys into roads, choose the quiet dust. It feels like a farewell folded into a map. You nod, inward, slow, and the nod becomes the evening's last word. The city exhales, and for once, you are caught up perfectly in the breath.
First light is only a rumor when you wake, a pale intention pressed along the top edges of granite, a coolness that invites ankles to be brave again. The fire is a shy ember, the pen a quiet geometry of breath and ear flicks. The elder stirs his apricot blanket into a tidy fold. The woman knots a slim scarf over her hair. The boy finds his stick by feel and gives it one small, polite tap to ask the walls if they are ready for goodbyes. They are. You move as you've learned, heel low, toes soft, past sleeping courtyards that smell of ash and story, past doorways where soapstone birds keep the last watch of night. Their pale heads tilt toward the east as if they too appreciate punctuality. Your pocket is a murmuring museum. The small soapstone bird the old man polished, the beginner's woven circle the weaver tied from palm fiber, the patience rattle with its seeds that count you back into breathing, the knot of grass the rainkeeper pressed into your hand, the sprig of time that has edited so many turns into sense. You are more rattles and rings than pockets now, and it all sits light. At the alley where the fig leaves make green hands against the paling sky, Noku's signature travels by pebble. Click, click, pause, click, as if she refuses to miss the opening scene of sunrise. The boy answers with the code he drilled into your bones. You can feel the reply without hearing it, a rolled eye, a grin into a blanket, a soft, "Go on then." The walls, awake but unhurried, carry the exchange like a helpful aunt. The market waits under the baobab, not yet unrolled, a dark bowl with a rim of birds. The ground still remembers last night's mbira steps. Your feet find them like lines to read out loud one last time. At the conical tower you stop without planning to. Circle once with your palm to stone, 12 breaths that taste like dew, and let one thought rise. Walk soft. The tower receives it and returns it rounder, polished by patience, the way it has done for you since you first learned to let stone adjust your voice. The herd, already uncurling,
gives you a farewell that isn't sentimental. A practical chorus of bells tuned to kindness. Your speckled scholar of side gaps noses your sleeve, then pretends he didn't. The woman ruffles the black brush tail. Ambition removed remains the household policy. He will try again, she says, warmth hiding inside certainty. So will you, when roads argue. You admit the accuracy with a grin. The climb toward the eastern gate is a gentle shoulder of city, granite lifting you toward a horizon that has been practicing gold all night. The elder walks at your left and points once at the chevrons, catch, keep, share, so the morning can underline them. The woman walks at your right and hums the two-note phrase, low, low, high, so the wind remembers your names. The boy performs an absurd balancing act with the empty gourd, and then mercifully stops because the gate deserves a serious arrival. There it is. Two flanking walls that rise like bookends, a width between them that feels exactly as wide as your breath, and beyond, a plain blushing into day. The stones here hold a last coolness. The soapstone bird above the lintel looks almost amused, as if farewells have always been its favorite page. The elder sets down his blanket, and from it the woman lifts your beginner's circle and something new. She has woven a second length through the first. Flip, tuck, draw tight, stitching patience into courage until the join disappears. The boy adds a copper ring from his counting string, and the elder knots the rainkeeper's grass into the circle's heart. Last, the woman tucks a single leaf of thyme into the weave. Charm for crossings, she says, placing it in your palm with both hands so the city is included. It will not keep you from getting lost. It will help you enjoy it. The old man's line returns, and this time you feel ready for its generosity. They gift you sentences in parting too. The elder's is the size of a breath. Listen for the shape of rooms before the size of voices. The woman's has a smile hidden in the middle. When bells brag, trade their tongues. The boy's, of course, is a dare disguised as advice. Count what matters twice, then tell me which story you believed. You promise to send the answer down any wall that will carry it. Sunlight reaches the tower and spills down the city like warm milk. Granite turns from blue to gold in slow-motion applause. In that wash of color, the alleys you learn to whisper into look like veins, the courtyards like open hands, the chevron courses like a script you can now read. You think of the problem you solved by lowering the volume, the patience you measured one seed rattle at a time, the fear rounded into choreography under a leopard's punctuation, the hidden water that tasted like verbs, the soft bell that stopped trying to be a trumpet. You realize you were leaving not with souvenirs, but with verbs. A trader reaches the square early with a bundle of cloth on her head and catches your small ceremony at the gate. She raises 2 fingers in greeting, and then continues because mornings have jobs. Noku's pebble clicks one more theatrical goodbye. Somewhere behind you, a calf practices responsibility by eating a boring patch of grass with great dedication. The city has already set itself to today, which makes it easier to walk. You step forward, heel low, toes soft. The charm warms in your palm as if it approves of new air. The elder taps once on the gatepost, and the wall answers with a quiet of acceptance. The woman presses your shoulder and, with a conspirator's glance, slides a portion of sour milk into your bag because she knows what you don't yet. Breakfast far from granite is still breakfast. The boy tries to look stoic and fails, so he leans his stick against your shoulder in a tiny thud that means, come back when your pockets need retuning. Outside the walls, the plain opens like a long sentence with plenty of commas for breathing. You turn once because you must. Golden stone holds you in its calm eyes, not clutching, just recognizing. The soapstone bird keeps its dignified nap. The gate waits for the next soft-footed arrival. You lift your woven charm to catch the new light. It glows the way patient things glow when they know their work is beginning again. You lower your hand, choose a line of quiet dust, and let your steps become part of it. The city does not follow. It travels with you anyway, edited into the way your feet meet earth, tucked into the habit of listening for walls even where there are none. Ahead, 4 faint roads slip away like shy goats. You breathe time, test the air, and take the one where the dust is kind.
Let the light soften now, as though the sun takes a long, careful breath before opening its eyes, as though the stone keeps a little cool for you to carry, as though the bells have learned the word hush and are happy to use it. You feel the woven circle resting in your hand. You feel the small copper ring, the grass knot, the clean whisper of time. And you feel, most of all, the way your own breathing has grown round and unhurried, a bowl that holds whatever the day will pour. The gate stands behind you, but it also stands inside you, and every step forward is simply a quieter echo of the steps you have already practiced. Heel low, toes soft, head easy, shoulders free. Let the hills fall back to a gentle outline. Let the baobab dim to a thought of shade. Let the tower become a familiar weight somewhere near your ribs, where calm ideas live. You can still hear the mbira if you want to, very faint, like cool water dropping into a hidden basin, each note smoothing another small crease from the day to come. You can still smell the warm sorghum, the faint milk, the wild thyme. But the scents drift like clouds that decide not to rain. They drift and they leave the air clean. If a worry stirs, let it be a calf that pauses, looks up, and then decides to follow, because the song is steady and the bells are kind. If a thought sharpens, round it gently. If a voice rises, lower it until it becomes a river under moonlight. Place the patience rattle near your pillow, or only imagine that you do, and count a few slow shakes, not because numbers matter here, but because rhythm welcomes sleep the way good walls welcome whispers. The city is far and not far. Its alleys have taught you how to listen. Its courtyards have taught you how to rest. Take one last easy breath. Let the dust of the roads settle, and allow your eyes to close like a gate that always opens again when the morning is ready. End of story. Sweet dreams.